So with that being said, we will get started with our agenda here, and I will hand it off to Bill to talk about what we're doing going forward.
Thanks, Danny. Thanks, all of you. I know many of you. It's awesome to see your faces, but I also, some of you who are new, and I love hearing that, folks who went to a house party or who we met at the fair are resonating with what this project is all about. And so glad to have you on this call. Our leadership team, which consists of Anne Leek, Grace Caggio, Bob Moline, Maureen Ash, myself, and Danny, we meet every single week and keep trying to move this forward. And we are have our eyes really trained right now on what's going to happen next year, starting in January. I just want to share some thoughts with you on that in the moment we're in, but also just want to say, there's so much attention on the election coming up next week. And it's an important election. It's a midterm election. And I plan to vote, but I always have this weird feeling the week or so before an election, because I feel like there's just signs everywhere of how broken our system is. There's nasty ads, where the narrator is this scary male voice, portraying these doom-like scenarios on either side. I don't know about you, but my phone and my email inbox is just getting flooded with fundraising requests, chip in $7.99, as if the only way to participate in democracy is to donate money. And then it seems like all the polls are dead heats, right? The world seems split. It's 48 everywhere, it seems like. So I'm just reflecting on the elections. I'm going to vote. I work at the polls in Menominee. I care about democracy, but it just really feels like there's got to be a better way to do this. Which brings us to why we're here. I think why we're all here. We have this opportunity to offer a new way to kind of break. I think somebody said, maybe David said, break the log jam with changing the way we elect our leaders using Final Five voting. And I just want to say the opportunity that we have in West Central Wisconsin is very significant. There is a very real chance that we can bring Final Five to Wisconsin. It's not a pipe dream. We're connected to a statewide network of other folks who are working in other parts of the state. So this isn't just us. There's a movement across the state, but I feel like in West Central Wisconsin, with the legislators in the Assembly and the State Senate who we have, they could be the key votes, the deciding votes on whether we get Final Five in the state or not. I just want to say that again. Our legislators in this part of the state could be the deciding votes. So the work that we're doing, the power that we're building, the bridges that we're building, the people who we're talking to, it's going to be really critical in order to get these legislators to say yes on Final Five if it comes up in this legislative session next year, which we have every reason to believe that it will. Our challenge is the amount of time we have. The legislative session begins on January 2nd of 2023. And that's exactly 60 days from today. It's exactly 3 months. And then you throw in Thanksgiving and Christmas and really the amount of time that we have to be prepared for the moment when it's game on. The legislature's back in session, committees are meeting, bills are being proposed, and potentially votes are coming to the floor. We really want to be prepared. And that's what our leadership team is talking about right now, getting our plans together, getting our legislative tactics together. Anne's going to talk more about that tonight. But I do want to say that whatever plans come to life, whatever tactics we decide on, the real thing that's going to win for us is the movement that we build and the amount of people we have on our team. And so that's why I'm so grateful that You all are hosting house parties, inviting your networks to them, because those are trusting spaces where people can learn about it's kind of a wonky discussion to have. Like, how do you tabulate votes? And like, it's not a discussion that is easily had just in a few minutes, right? So it's really, really crucial that, you know, the work we're doing with these house parties and all the support we're building, conversations we're having. So thank you, because we really need this to be a truly bipartisan movement. We're not going to win if this is just liberals or just conservatives. It's got to be both. That's why we're called Bridge the Divide. Not only because we think Final Five can bridge the divide, but also because we have to bridge the divide in order to get Final Five. So my ask to you is, knowing that the opportunity we have and the challenge we have, think about your capacity over the next 3 to 4 months. Think about maybe now between next March, and what role could you play in this movement? Can you host a House meeting? Could you become a member of our legislative action team and help hold down and coordinate some of the action within your assembly district? What do you have time for? What do you have capacity for? We're not asking you to donate your entire life to a never-ending thing. We think it's going to be about a 4-month window. So I'm just asking you to reflect on what you've got to give, because we really need everybody as part of the team as the work really gets heated up once the legislature is back in session. So I hope you'll consider that. There's a lot of ways to plug in. Ann will talk more about that. Danny will talk more about that near the end of the meeting. Thanks for listening to me talk. And I'm really glad you're all here, and it gives me hope. And don't forget to vote.
Yes, thank you, Bill. Yeah, we'll definitely get into a lot tonight, and I'm glad you're all here as well. So Grace, can you bring us to the next slide?
I'm hitting buttons on my computer and it's not going forward. So is there a certain button when it's in this slideshow that I'm supposed to hit?
I don't think so. You tried hitting just the left click and right arrow?
Yeah, I'm hitting the arrows. Are you hearing the sound?
No, but I believe you. Have you escaped? Can you try closing the slideshow and then
I could do that. Yeah, let me escape.
Next slide.
Well, oh.
Yeah, okay. There it goes.
I'm not sure how that happened. We'll try the next time. We'll see if I can figure that out.
Yeah, sounds good. So yeah, our strategic goal for this campaign is that we will build relationships, promote civic engagement, and organize residents to demand that legislators pass Final Five voting in Wisconsin in 2023 in order to reduce extreme partisanship and divisiveness in politics. So this is what we're all about here going forward, and for the past several months. And this is what we've been doing as our strategic goal. Grace, can you bring us to the next slide?
Honestly, I hit the escape button, and that's what I thought made it go. I'm
page down.
Page down.
Let's go.
I'm hitting the pad. Oh, there we go. So it's hitting the pad. I need to hit the pad.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, sounds good. So here's our geographic scope for this project. It is Assembly Districts 28, 29, 30, and 93, which include all or parts of the following counties: Pierce, St. Croix, Dunn, Polk, Eau Claire, and Pepin. So most of you tonight are within these counties. There's a few outside of these counties too, which we're always glad to see. But this is the area that we're focused on and that we will be doing most of our campaigning in. Next slide, Grace. There we go. So this has been our timeline thus far. So in June 2022, we started with our kickoff events in Menominee and River Falls. Those were our first tactic that really kicked off the campaign. And from there, we went into the middle stage of our campaign, focusing on house parties and community events. So over the last few months, those have been our main tactics that we've been employing just to spread the word at a grassroots level and get more people to support Final Five voting. We found that house parties are the best way to talk to a small or medium-sized group of people in an in-depth manner. And at community events like the Pierce County Fair and the Great Menominee Cookout, which we were at a couple months ago, that's a good way to talk to a lot of people in maybe less in-depth of a manner, but to really get the phrase Final Five voting in a lot of people's mind. And next year, starting in January, we will start shifting focus over to our climax tactic, which is legislative action. And that is what we'll be touching on tonight, is that final tactic and the different things we'll be trying to do to get Final Five voting ultimately passed next year in the state of Wisconsin. Next slide, Grace. So here's an update on what our house parties have been looking like in Bridge Divide over the last month. We had 8 house parties in October. We've got a couple people here tonight who were able to learn about Bridge Divide at a house party over the last month or two, which is good to see. And we've already got 8 more scheduled for November. So over the last couple months and into the next couple months, we're really ramping up our number of house parties that we're having. We had more than 100 attendees to all of our house parties in October, and we've actually already had 2 more in November over these last 2 days. So we've got 6 more scheduled, 8 scheduled for November total, and 2 of them are already done. So house parties have been a great success. Bob and I are mostly speaking at these house parties, and his plate is so full at this point that he's handing over some of the speaking duties to me for these house parties. And it's been really great to see the amount of support that we've seen at them. Next slide. So our community events update here is mostly just the city sampler, which we were at early last month at UW River Falls. We talked to about 45 people there, and we will also be going back to UW River Falls with a booth just on campus on November 16th. We're also looking for more fall and winter events. We're actively searching for them. And if anyone knows any fall and winter events, I'd be all ears, since we certainly want to get more booths out in more circles that we haven't been in yet. So with that, I will hand it off to Anne as we go over to our next slide to talk about legislative action.
Okay, thanks, Danny. I'm heading up the legislative action portion of our efforts, which has been sort of on hold now until after the election for very purposeful reason. We are working in conjunction with Voters First, an organization doing the same thing on the other side of the state. And the bill that was introduced in the last legislative session about Final Five was a bipartisan bill. It did have supporters from both sides. And it's very crucial that this issue not become a political divisive issue in the election. So it was kept on the back burner during the election time because we really want bipartisan support with the new legislative session. So starting in January, when we know who our legislators are going to be, we are interested in forming teams in each of the assembly districts in our area. So one thing that I am going to start looking for is people in each of the legislative areas who would be willing to help me find teams in those areas, because we know legislators want to hear from their constituents. So whoever the legislator is in District 28 doesn't want to hear from me and down in Pierce County. They want to know that their constituents are speaking to them. So we're really interested in finding people in each of the districts who can be on a team to do a couple things. We are working on a postcard project where postcards will be sent to legislators. We are definitely working on phone calling, a phone call bank. And the phone calls will happen at the time when the bill is being introduced into the committee, if it gets through the committees into the legislature for a vote. We want 100 people in each of our legislative districts to be calling the legislators to ask them to vote for the bill. So we really need help in organizing people who will make these phone calls. It would be a quick thing, but reaching out to lots of people in each district is really important for us so that the legislators hear from lots of people in each district. And then probably, hopefully, we will work on a lobby day event. It could be virtual. It might be in Madison. That hasn't been figured out yet. But again, we would like teams of people who are prepped and ready. We want this planned ahead of time so that we're ready to go when the bill is introduced and our legislators can hear from the people in Western Wisconsin about how important this is. So I know there's a couple people here from Polk County. I know there's a couple people here from Dunn County. I know there's a couple or at least one person from Buffalo County. If you are interested in helping, please let me know. I will be in contact with you. If you help me find people in your areas who might be willing to work on these legislative teams, please let me know because we want to start building these teams now. So I think that's it for me, Danny. Questions, we can share emails later for contact information.
Yep, absolutely. And we'll be having a survey later that we'll be asking everyone who's interested to fill out to possibly join our legislative action team. Thank you, Anne. Also, Anne, would I be able to send a link for you to share at the end of our meeting tonight?
Sure.
Just to share in chat. Thank you.
Sure.
I'll send that to you now. Thank you for that. Grace, we can go to the next slide. So Anne went over some of these tactics, and these will be sort of the main tactics that we'll be employing in the next year during the legislative session. So she touched a little bit on our lobby day and our phone banking. The exact logistics of the lobby day aren't yet decided, but we will for sure be phone banking legislators and trying to get 100 people from each assembly district to call legislators, as Ann said. And that can be something as simple as picking up the phone and saying, my name is Danny, I'm from Barron, Wisconsin, and I want to see the bill for Final 5 voting receive a vote, and I'd like to see it passed in the state of Wisconsin. I see Craig asks if this tactic will be employed by other organizations across the state, and the phone call day will be in conjunction with Voters First Wisconsin. So the phone call day we are hoping to have in conjunction with those other organizations across the state. So we're all calling on the same day. The postcard campaign is also something that we are doing in conjunction with other organizations across the state. So this is something that we will be employing at our house parties and community events, where we will be asking people to write postcards to their assemblymen as well as their state senators. And they will just be postcards in support of Final 5 voting. And then they will all be sent to Democracy Found Action, which is another organization working on Final 5 voting. And then sort of around the same time that we are doing the phone call blitz, those postcards will all be sent out on one day to the legislators in the area. I see George, do you have a question?
Comment to Bill, I guess, in the reach across the state. Wisconsin United to Mend is waiting to hear, who's going to be there. We've got people all around the state, and we're going to be asking them once we get specific, information from Voters First Wisconsin. So we're going to be getting people from around the states who are in the certain areas, and we're going to try to get them involved. We're going to bring them in at the end to do that, the work on the ground. And also a lot of the people who worked on, and I heard that some of you did here, who worked on fair maps are interested in waiting to support this. So it's not just you guys. And we hope we get enough people. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, George. And yeah, there are a lot of organizations working on this across the state. So we're hoping to sort of be in lockstep with those other organizations and maximize the amount of impact that we can have as a group of different organizations. Ultimately, what this means is that we're turning our campaign sort of from an inward-looking campaign sort of into an outward-looking campaign, making it a lot more public. So we're not 100% sure what we're going to do in January or February yet, but we're talking about the possibility of an event, a rally of some sort, where we will be building support in this area and hopefully getting news coverage in this area for our support of Final Five voting. Over the last several months, as Anne has said, we have been trying to be building things on a grassroots level very slowly and quietly, as to not necessarily ruffle any feathers and make this into an election issue. But over the next few months, it will be important to start making this into something that is much more publicly known and much more well-known across this area to your average voter, so we can build support and build enough of a group of a big enough group of people to have 100 people ultimately calling legislators on a given day. So that will be the big change that we'll be implementing, is making this campaign into a lot more public of a campaign than it has been previously. Next slide, Grace. So this is something that GROW is doing in January of next year, which is our partner organization. We're GROW Action, so we do specifically political work, and GROW is essentially the same organization, but not necessarily as politically focused. So in January of next year, GROW will be hosting a grassroots school, which is essentially an organizing training. If you have ever had any interest in learning how to become an organizer, or just want to see what it's like and see if it's for you, this is a great thing to attend. It'll be a mix of online and in-person sessions from January 25th to January 31st, and price is flexible. This is something that we will be sharing a link later in the meeting to allow people to sign up for a question and answer session on Grassroots School. So if you have any questions, I may be able to answer them here. Otherwise, there is also a Q&A session later this month, I think next week, for Grassroots School. So with that being said, we will open the floor for questions. If you'd like to go to the next slide, Grace, and we will open the floor for questions surrounding our tactics and the next stage for this campaign.
I have a question.
Yes.
So if you, in thinking about going public, do you anticipate any negative pushback from any direction? And if so, how do you propose to be prepared for dispelling misinformation, lies, myths, with regard to what Final Five has to offer?
Yes, so far we haven't run into much of this, but that is because we've been sort of more of a private inward-looking campaign. We are going to be very intentional about our messaging and what we're doing on, if we have a short news segment about us, we will be very intentional with what it is that we're saying. And the exact responses would, of course, depend on what the pushback is. But the important thing is for us to be bipartisan and to not appear to be necessarily in support of one party or another as we look forward. But yeah, it is something on our mind, and it would be something that we sort of respond to as it comes, any given criticism as it comes.
Okay, so then with that in mind, one strategy might include cautioning people to, when they hear information, to think critically, to examine where is the information coming from and who stands to benefit if some initiative is passed or fails. So you're forearming your audience to think critically, to ask questions, and not just accept as facts, you know, whatever video or meme or whatever that comes their way.
Yes, absolutely. And I think it's definitely something that we're keeping in mind for sure. We have a document, pretty much a running document of what are the pushbacks, the concerns that we run into, and how do we respond to them. And I'm sure as we get closer, we'll be coming back to that document more and more as we receive more potential pushback. But yeah. Any other questions or comments?
Well, I want to comment on that concern potentially. When we have been encouraged, because the bill that was introduced for this Final Five voting in the last legislative session did have bipartisan support, which almost has never happened in recent history in the Wisconsin legislature. So there's hope that legislators on both sides do see value in this. Not like some other initiatives, not like fair maps. So we're hoping that we've got some ground to start from where there are people on both sides of the aisle who do believe that this is a good thing to do. And we're hoping that will carry over and the numbers will increase in the next legislative session. But negative information and negative feedback we know will be out there. And as Danny mentioned, yes, we have prepared, we have tried to prepare for that.
Thank you, Ann. Any other questions? Yep.
Yeah, I have
Grace.
a question for Ann, and maybe others have heard. Voss was primaried and came very close to being primaried out. So for firsthand experience with an extreme reaction and a minority having as much weight during the primary. So I'm wondering if anyone's heard anything in terms of Voss's reaction to that, and maybe how it might be impacting how he sees Final Five. Anyone hear anything?
There was some information probably closer to the time of the primary when it was much more impactful to him at that point about how narrow his margin, winning margin was, that he was at that time interested in hearing about Final Five because he realized how important that could have been to him in the election, the primary election. I haven't heard anything since then. We do have a source that probably could help us. But, you know, I think we're waiting for the election to be over, for the dust to settle, and then we'll follow up on that. But yes, his eyes were opened and we hope in a positive way regarding Final Five. Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Ann. And yeah, I was going to say something similar, which is essentially that we haven't heard anything final on his support, but that he has open ears, which is a step in the right direction. I saw a question in chat about what reasons legislators would have to support this bill. Grace actually sort of just outlined one, which is that it helps you a lot to not have to worry about the primary so much. Robin Voss is a very powerful Republican in the state and came very close to being primaried out in that August primary. So that is one significant reason to support this bill as a current legislator in power. Another reason to support it is the strategic nature of it. So the fact that the bill has only been put forth for the federal congressional elections to start out with. So an assemblyman or a senator at the state level can pass this bill without necessarily having to worry about being voted out directly as a result of the bill and regretting the decision. So seeing that it works and then maybe coming back to it in the future for state elections would be another reason to possibly support this bill. I also saw the question of if we currently have legislators who support this bill, and the answer is yes. There are 14 Democrats and 7 Republicans who signed on to this bill last legislative session. We expect that number to grow in its next legislative session. I'm not sure that we can definitively say anyone in particular will be added to that list before the election because of that sort of nature. And we don't have direct contact with legislators so much as our partner, Democracy Found, does. But there are, at the very least, 21 assemblymen and senators in the current state legislature who supported this bill in the last session. I believe there was also another question in chat, but my phone is freaking out.
The bill number. I have forgotten that. Does anybody know the bill number of in the previous session?
250. 250. Yep. So yeah, if you look up Senate Bill 250, Wisconsin, it'll come up on Google, and on that list you'll be able to see on that bill you'll be able to see the entire list of all of the senators and assemblymen who have supported that bill. It includes people in this area who you may recognize. Any other questions that were in chat or that people can think of now?
Are you familiar with votesmart.org? It's a nonpartisan organization that does research into voting history and it's comprised of both Republicans and Democrats that do this research. You might contact them and let them know this about Final Five and what you're doing, because they could also help get the word out in a positive way.
Yeah, I've heard of the website before, but I don't think I've ever actually went on it, but I have it up now and it does look intriguing. So I will make sure to look into that. Thank you for telling me about that. Other questions? So are you going to make revisions in the bill from the previous bill? Not as far as I know. I believe the bill will be the same as it was in the previous legislature. So just applying specifically to the federal congressional offices, that was the biggest differentiator between other bills that have come up in other states. But other than that, it's the same bill as far as I know. Other questions?
Kino has a question. Kino in the Twin Cities, so not exactly involved in our legislation, but hey, Minnesota could do the same thing. So they do, they do have it at the municipal level in Minneapolis, but there's no reason why Minnesota couldn't think about a Final Five bill as well. So we'd love to have you continue to work and support us, but there's no reason why you couldn't try to get your own effort going in Minnesota.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just wondering, since I'm just only 30 miles away, which is not far at all. I'm just wondering if there's like, if I can still, keep it going, keep the voting, momentum, going too in that area too.
Yeah, well, education, talk to people. So many people have not heard about Final Five. And the more we can educate people on what it is and what it would do and how it would help our democracy, even in Minnesota, anywhere, talk to people, help educate, get the word around. That's really, really helpful at this point because it's a new concept.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, absolutely. That is definitely the most important thing, is to educate people. And I would like to see, we're close enough to Minnesota. I would like to see the possibility of this being passed there as well, hopefully someday. Other questions that people have?
What's the next step?
Join a legislative team, Wendy. I can be in touch and I can get you on the Pierce County legislative team. Once the elections are over and we know who we're dealing with, we're going to get to work. So I'd be happy to have you help us with our contacts with legislators.
Okay, yeah. Let's see, is they're going to be sending out a contact list? I think Sue knows how to get a hold of you, Sue Bouchard.
Sure.
So, because I want to stay in touch.
Yeah, no problem. That's great. Great to have you.
I have a little question. Being that this is a nonpartisan group, is it all right to be in leadership in one of the parties and be a part of this?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good question. Danny, take it.
Yes, it is. One specific thing we're not doing is going to either party necessarily to county committees, let's say, but it is okay to be in county leadership yourself and still be involved in this, since any person we'll take whatever person we can get. We have Republicans who want to support this and Democrats who want to support this. And we are focusing specifically in this area on as much conservative outreach as we can and trying to really get as much momentum there as we can due to the fact that this is a red area, but it is okay to personally be involved in county leadership and still involved in this. One thing we do want to be strategic about is that when we call legislators, we don't necessarily want to have 100 people and have 90 of them be Democrats or 90 of them be Republicans. We want sort of a good mix, and especially actually in this area, if it was 90 Republicans, that would probably be okay. In fact, that would definitely be okay. But we do want to be strategic in sort of the makeup of what, who is calling legislators when the time comes. Any other questions? Okay. Grace, I will have you take us to the final slide here today. So one thing also that we're asking people to do on top of these two things is to help three friends vote if possible. If you have 3 friends who aren't voting, we'll have information for you on how to help them vote. But the main thing we're asking here today is to have either host a house party or agree to call legislators when the time comes. So Anne, if you can drop that link in chat that I sent you over email. I resent it to you because I sent you the wrong link at first.
Okay.
That's a theme today, but these are the 2 main things that we're asking of people, either to host a house party or to call legislators. So our house parties are our main tactics right now, and calling legislators will be our main tactic as the next legislative session really gets underway and we see the bill come up, hopefully for a vote. And this form will have also in it information about Grassroots School if you are interested in learning more about that, and a link to follow to learn more about how to help 3 friends vote. So this form, if you could all fill it out and let us know if you would be willing to host a house party, call legislators, and anything else. And then I'm going to just make sure, is that link working for everyone as you open it? Looks like the link is working, right?
I think so.
Yep, sounds good. All right. So yeah, it'd be great to have all of your support in whatever way possible, be it hosting a house party or agreeing to call legislators. And it's been great to have you all today. Thank you all for joining us. This has been a good meeting. I think it's good that you were all able to join us despite our link issues early on in the meeting. So thank you, everyone.